I've played sports competitively my whole life, so and I was a theater major, so I have some amount of experience with nerves, and how to kind of cope with them. Um, but I found that one of the challenging things for me in this situation is that like a lot of my coping mechanisms are things that are like movement based, or like I like make noises or like get loud about things, and that helps me shake the nerves. And I was like, I feel like I can't do any of this here. We're all just sitting in a chair, and I don't know this person next to me, and it's just the two of us. And I was like, oh, I'm kind of unprepared with how to like deal with nerves outside of those situations I'm familiar with. So that was it was an interesting challenge.
I have an image of you like playing and then all of a sudden stopping and being like, unique New York.
That's more
And your
like
opponent's like, what the fuck? Hello, and welcome to the Absolute Guard podcast. This is episode 51. Our usual hosts are myself, John, and Benny, aka AK Grandmaster B, but he is currently out on a romantic anniversary trip with his beloved during this taping. So I myself am recovering from post-Evo illness, but I'm excited to talk about Evo and Game On Expo with my panel of experts. My panel, as in people who were actually at both events. Today I'm joined by Maynard, aka TheXButton, who is a local TO and community leader in the Arizona scene. How's it going, Maynard?
Hey, I'm doing good. Thanks for having me back.
For sure, man. I'm also joined by Jess, aka supersultry, who is my often mentioned fiance and who experienced her first fighting game tournaments as a competitor at Evo and Game On. How's it going, Jess?
pretty good. Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Yay. And I'm excited too. Like, let's just get into it. So Evo was last week. It was in Las Vegas, Nevada, and it was the biggest fighting game tournament that has ever been held. Possibly, I think, the biggest video game tournament that's ever been held. So we all entered the tournament, and we all played in pools and whatnot. And the big difference around pools this time was that there were like 3 layers of pools, and there's all kinds of unique experiences, I think, that make it different than a normal Evo. So I was curious about everybody's like pool experience and like what it was like playing through your pools. XButton, do you want to go first?
Yeah, I was lucky enough. Like, if it was any other Evo, my pool started at 6 p.m. That's, I think, pretty lucky. I could sleep in if I needed to. I did have 3 friends with me. My friends had an earliest pool at 10 a.m., so I still had to come in early, but it still helped my mental, just to like, hey, the nerves, relax, I'm here, and I can see how big the crowd is. And with how many people, it was interesting that they did day one being all of pool one. So every single person that competed on day one was their first pool. And I thought that was a really cool twist, I guess, that they did with the number of competitors.
Yeah.
With my pool, I got lucky to get a bye. I think the cool thing was that they used Smash.gg and they could see a little bit based on your performance in locals and everywhere else. And I think that's where I got a bye. But I was also lucky enough to be able to fight one of the people I look up to, Big Bird. He was my 3rd match, and it was a really cool experience to be able to fight him. I learned all of the tricks of the Marissa from
Nice.
him, and I was honestly just, I don't know, there was a lot of emotion, scared, excited, everything that you could think of to be able to fight with Big Bird. And like, go ahead.
I remember watching that match, and you were. I forget what I said. I said something like, "Maynard, you better punch the shit out of this motherfucker," and then
Yeah,
his camera guy Angry Bird had a whole entourage. This camera guy like looked at me, and then I smiled at him, and he smiled back because we both knew who you were playing with, and it was funny because a lot of the stuff, the tech that you used against Big Bird, was the tech that you got from Big Bird.
Yeah,
so you hit it with his own stuff.
Stuff that he posted on X, formerly known as Twitter. It's my website now. But
Hell yeah.
But I also heard so I was dead focused in the match just because of who I was fighting. But I heard from other people in our friend group that I guess his brother was also getting mad at Big Bird for the stuff that I was getting away with.
Yes.
Such as him drive impacting me, and I'm just counter drive impacting.
You counter DI Big Bird. We were all like, "Oh my god, Maynard!" And then in the background, his brother was like, "What the fuck is he doing?"
And then putting him in his own safe jump setup right afterwards.
Yep.
So
dare I say really that his brother was getting angry?
Oh my god.
For sure. It's the name. Really cool experience. I would never trade it for anything. Like before the tournament, I'm like, oh, it's Big Bird. I will admit it was a little scary, and I was already negative. Like, all right, I'm going to get out of losers bracket at the least. That was the bare maximum that I was wanting. But playing now and looking back at it, I would never change it. If they gave me an opportunity to change the bracket, no, I would take that match again and again. It was a lot of fun and a great experience, and I loved it.
Very cool. How about you, Jess? What was your pool experience like at Evo this year?
Yeah, I mean, I obviously am not as experienced, so my first experience was going 0-2, baby. Yeah.
As is
everyone's gotta have it once. It's gotta happen once.
It's gonna happen more than once, I think, but that's all right. Yeah, no, it was fun though. So I think we were trying, John, you and I were trying to go to our friend Paul's pool early on and quickly realized that the line was gonna make that impossible.
Yeah. We didn't even talk about the line. Holy shit.
The line was basically to the elevators at that point, was because Paul's pool is at 11, I think.
Yeah.
And so
the venue itself opened at 10 a.m. if I recall correctly.
Yeah. So yeah, we were getting the hook up from people sending pictures of the line, and we were like, oh, there's no possible way we're making this. But I am glad that they kind of cleared that up later in the day. That was good. My pool was at 2, which was at the same time as yours, so I was a little bit bummed that John and I couldn't really cheer each other on. That was a bit of a bummer, but I did have some of my other friends that kind of joined us in Las Vegas this year to cheer me on, which was actually really cool. And my first match, I actually felt was pretty close. John was telling me it's the classic. It was 0-2, but it was close. And I was like, oh yeah, that's a real thing. That's how I felt. No, but it was against a Guile. I'm not super good at the Guile matchup with JP, so that was a little tricky. And then my second match was against a Marissa, and I got absolutely destroyed. But I don't know. I didn't mind. I had a really good time. I was really only disappointed that meant I was done playing. I wasn't really that disappointed that I lost, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I get you. That's the draw of the double elimination tournament, is that you get a second chance, but then once you use up both chances, it's like, well, I want to keep playing. And at a local, the average experience would then be, all right, well, let's run casuals afterwards. But unfortunately at Evo, it's like, no, we need to clear the stations because there's 6,999 other people that want to play their matches.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And I think that was a kind of a recurring theme, is that every Arizonan player, for every Arizona player that was currently playing in their pool, there were 3 other ones that were also playing at the same exact time. So yeah, as you mentioned, Jess, I didn't have a chance to even see you play. But because I was busy playing through my first day of pools too. And that was interesting in that everybody always asks, who do you have in your pool? Who do you have in your pool? And I got this is my humble brag. I got top seed in my pool. So I was the guy that everybody was looking out for in my pool.
You had you in your pool?
Yeah. but like in a more in a less arrogant way, there was like two people in my pool that I actually knew, not as players, but like as people that I've talked to and have been friends with. One of the guys I actually played Street Fighter V with 2 years ago, and so he was in my pool. And then there's another guy who was from Tijuana, Mexico, who actually used to come to our Arizona tournaments. He would bring a contingent of people from Tijuana to compete in Arizona versus Mexico team battles, and this is like in 2013 or something. And his name is TL Kenshin. The team's name is Team Lago, and I got to basically reunite with him because I hadn't seen him since 2013 really. So I got to reunite with him and say hi and everything. We got to play a new game together for the first time, and it was a really interesting and at a Evo pool match. So it's high stakes too. So it was a really cool like way to reconnect with a friend that way.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Okay, so day one passes by. I qualified out in winners. Maynard, you qualified out in losers, and then Jess, you were eliminated, but you were able to come the second day anyway. What was your guys' second day like of pools?
So my second day, it started with one of my friends who also made it out on losers. So I got to watch him and try to mentally reset again. We actually the day before played a lot of sweet matches. Played some more matches together just to kind of keep the blood flowing and keep the mental state in the right place. He won his first match, lost the second. Excuse me. And when my time came around, I actually was fighting a Ryu, and they actually had like a secondary stream station. It was a little unique. I noticed there was a capture card there and a splitter, and then the cables went somewhere else, far, far away. But they're like, hey, talk to this guy real quick. And this guy was writing in his phone notepad, getting my name, getting my if I have clan tags, what city or sorry country I was from. So I thought I was going on stage. They're like, no, you're gonna still be here. You're just gonna be playing on a side stream match. And I was like, okay, that's interesting. I think they only caught one of my rounds, but it was still kind of a cool experience. But my mental was definitely more like everybody's eyes are on me. I gotta play my best, and I didn't drop anything. I played, I think, pretty clean. Unfortunately, he did outclass me. I still have to understand like the range game fighting Ryu. So there was things I learned from it and experienced, and I was just pretty much out after that. But I was really happy to finally make it out of my first pool for my first time, especially in Evo.
Do you think that the day's break between like qualifying it out after losing to Big Bird in day one and then going in fresh day two, do you think that that helped or hurt you in the long run?
I do think it hurt a bit just because it's like it's a reset in the mental, just of like I'm not in that adrenaline push mood anymore. And I think my body just kind of like, hey, I'm in rest mode, but like, no, you can't rest yet. You need to play another tournament set. And it was good that we were able to play the night before at a suite.
Yeah.
And
I wanted to ask you about that too. Is you mentioned a suite? Like, are you talking about like there was a fabled Arizona suite, if I recall correctly, right?
Yeah. Big shout outs to Musakita, Big Mac, and oh no, I'm gonna forget your name.
Zerio.
I'm so sorry. Yeah, Zerio. Thank you so much. Big shout outs to them. They were very nice to have a lot of Arizona people housed in. They rearranged the room to have multiple TVs, multiple setups, and like sure, there's we worked the seats that we had, but the condition, like it still helped with tournament conditions. Like you're not going to play on your favorite chair, you're not going to play on your favorite TV. You got to get used to a different setup and play at a different condition. So that did help a bunch. Big shout outs to those guys. They helped out a ton.
Yeah, that was a very welcoming suite. I had a lot of fun when I visited it a couple times. Okay, so I guess, yeah. So eventually you were able to, you were done with the tournament after a while. You were eliminated. And I guess after that, what was the rest of your day like after you're done with the tournament?
I wanted to support as many Arizona players as I could. The weird thing was being that everything is pool 2 in an hour block, hours 10 to 12, I think, or maybe even 10 to 1.
Yeah.
Everybody was pool 2. So it was really hard to support your fellow teammates, fellow players. Um, I decided actually to hang out with you. I wanted to record as many matches as I can. And I mean, I don't want to spoil or talk about your pools, but I definitely brought my own camera equipment. I had a secondary cell phone, so I'm not wasting my own battery. Record as many matches as I can. I put them up on YouTube as best quality as possible. And, I still had a lot of fun, even though it's not tournament experience. It is something I do want to continue with, especially for Arizona. Not every match could get streamed. So if we could find some way to record footage and get data, whether it be to train, find mistakes, or anything of that sort, I think it'll be helpful, and I think it's a good cause. And I do want to continue with that. So I do plan on trying to improve my own stuff to help out with everyone here.
Dang, you're gonna be the media expert by the end of all this.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
Oh, I actually wanted to double back to your like one round of stream time too. So there was a clip going around, and Jess, I think you and I have talked about this offline, but there's a clip going around where Sajam and Yipes were commentating a match, but they didn't have
Yeah.
game audio, but the stream did, and they didn't know it, so they were like narrating the game audio even though the audio was playing behind it. Part of the reason why they lost their game audio is because they actually had switched to Maynard's match.
That's awesome.
So Maynard
Legendary.
actually played a role in that.
I heard about it. I did not know that was the main reason.
Yeah,
I need to find the full clip because I've only seen parts of them doing the sound effects. Sandblast.
It's pretty good. It's pretty legit, honestly.
I think it's honestly a really cool idea that they had, which was, hey, we have all of this free time to fill in pools usually because people are you're waiting to get people onto the stage, get them all settled in, have to wait for ads and all this other stuff. So what if there was footage that we could cut to on the floor that people very clearly want to see it? There's like Daigo versus Mena RD took place off stream, right? Everybody was excited to see that, but that footage hasn't seen the light of day yet. So there was a lot of like opportunities for footage, but there wasn't really ever a way to get that onto the stream. And so this is, I think, their attempt at trying, but it unfortunately resulted in that audio error. So hopefully they've got that hammered out in the coming tournaments, and maybe next year we'll have that stuff.
Someone actually did get the Mena RD and Daigo footage up.
Oh yeah?
It was originally streamed on Instagram, I guess. Someone actually
Nice.
did a stream there. But I don't know how they did it, but they actually did get actual direct game footage. I'm wondering if someone pulled the PlayStation and recorded it on the side.
Yeah.
I did find one, and maybe I'll post it on the description. I give it to you, put it on the description.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that'd be cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
We can link to it in the podcast description. So check that, and then like and subscribe to engage in our content. Anyway, so that sounds like Maynard's day 2. How was your day 2, Jess?
I mean, mine was probably significantly less eventful because I didn't have to play. But yeah, I mostly followed you around, John, actually. I also like did go around like Artist Alley and stuff like that. Also got a couple things. Like I stopped by, what was it? Junk Food Arcade? It's those guys who have the
snack box folks?
The micro? Yeah. So, because John has been letting me use his hitbox to try to learn some leverless controls, which I am realizing I really love. So now I'm hooked, and I'm really new, and I'm already switching control schemes. So that's a decision.
One of us.
Get ready for everybody to tell you you're a cheater now.
Yeah, they already think so. I play modern, so it's fine. No, but like I had a really good time watching your run. Like again, I don't want to preempt your description of it, but it was a really good time. And also I really appreciated how many people that were also kind of trying to follow you were just actually super excited to hear how I did, what my competition was like. Like I was really surprised, but a lot of the Arizona guys were just super nice about it, and it was really awesome. Really made me feel like a part of the community. So thanks, guys.
Shout outs to Arizona. Um, yeah, I guess if I could, I can go ahead and talk about my tournament experience and how awesome that was. Um, no, actually, I did play pretty well, all things considered. I immediately lost my first match in the day 2 of pools. I lost it to a Lily player from Dallas who wins all the locals there. His name's Mo, really really strong player. I lost to a fucking Lily again in a major, so that's if you're ever looking for like what to practice, like that's basically a giant bat signal on my end. It's like I got to practice a very specific matchup. There's nothing. It's a pretty clean answer as to why I lost. And I'm looking forward to running sets with him later. I ran through losers bracket in pool 2, and then I also qualified out in pool 3, and so I ultimately landed at 65th place, and I lost to Machabo for my elimination match, who is a Guilty Gear god. Along the way, I got to play against people from London, from Mexico, from Chile, and ultimately to lose to somebody from Japan. So I definitely got the whole World Warrior experience, and then that probably contributed to why I got sick. I also spent a fair amount of time after the tournament was over. Actually, one thing about the tournament matches is, as you guys mentioned, there was a pretty big crowd that was watching. And I can say that as somebody I placed top 8 at Defend the North, and so I got to actually be on the stage, and I took a selfie and saw how big the crowd was behind me and hearing it roar and whatnot. There was still something more unique, I think, about playing in pools. So I wasn't even on a stage, but hearing everybody cheering for me locally, like people that like know me and know who I am, and are fans of my play, or like I'm fans of them, that it's one thing for a big crowd to cheer. It's another thing when it's a big crowd full of all your friends. And that to me was like a big heartwarming moment for like, hey, I'm a part of this community, this Arizona community it made that moment extra special. I definitely had like some close calls. I had some clutch wins, to be honest. Like I felt like I played very well. And one of the things that I had been practicing, like going into this event, was not necessarily about expanding my bag of tricks, but more so increasing the lower bound and increasing my consistency instead. Because at DTN, I noticed that my nerves were really getting the best of me, and I wasn't playing at my 100%. And I would say at Evo, I probably play closer to 80 or 90, which is good enough. And that's kind of what I wanted to practice. And so I felt pretty satisfied with my matches overall. I guess in the theme of nerves, did you guys have any nerves while you were playing at Evo? It being your first major experience for Street Fighter 6?
For Street Fighter 6, yeah. I mean, I don't think those nerves ever went away. I've done the first tournament for Street Fighter 5 when I played it. I've done multiple DOA 6 tournaments and DOA 5. Even in the locals, when it gets to the high stress situations, I tend to always get shaky. And I think that's something that I have to work on, either to just fight past it or find a way to stop it. And being at Evo with all those people, not to mention, like I said, Big Bird, someone that you look up to, that definitely will shake you.
Yeah.
And that's something I'm interested to break through, hopefully. And maybe next year that'll be the time.
You had been like trying to practice for your nerves too, though. Like you had done that like money match kumite at TGZ a couple of weeks prior, right? Did you find that any of that helped you out while you were playing at Evo?
I do want to say, yeah. I was definitely more shaky at the kumite. Having money on the line is always something you don't want to lose, of course. But I think the kumite was definitely more nerve-wracking because of how close some of the situations got, and like I don't know. It felt more familiar fighting Big Bird and being in the second day of pools comparably to the Kumite. So I do think maybe the Kumite did help, and it is beneficial. It's not something recommended for everybody because you're literally putting money on the line. Obviously, don't do that if you're in a bad spot. But for me, being something where that I want to learn, I want to get better, I think that was a well worth experience.
Very cool. And Jess, how about you? First tournament ever? Any nerves?
Yeah, like if you watch, I think our friend Eric recorded my first match. If you watch it, the number of missed inputs is disgusting. So maybe don't watch it, but I noticed it immediately. I was like, oh God. And one of the hard things about it being such a big tournament is like we maybe warmed up for like 30 minutes, if that, beforehand. Like we didn't have anywhere to really do that. So I already knew going in, I was like, okay, I'm gonna be like kind of cold. That's gonna make it even harder. Definitely like the first round of the first match is by far the worst. Like I remember being like, wow, this is really rough. And then to me, like John and I have talked a little bit about this before, but you know, I've played sports competitively my whole life, so, and I was a theater major, so I have some amount of experience with nerves and how to kind of cope with them. But I found that one of the challenging things for me in this situation is that like a lot of my coping mechanisms are things that are like movement based, or like I like make noises or like get loud about things, and that helps me shake the nerves. And I was like, I feel like I can't do any of this here. We're all just sitting in a chair and I don't know this person next to me and it's just the two of us. And I was like, oh, I'm kind of unprepared with how to like deal with nerves outside of those situations I'm familiar with. So that was it was an interesting challenge.
I have an image of you like playing and then all of a sudden stopping and being like, unique New York.
That's more
like... Your opponent's like, what the fuck?
That's more like I like yell, or like, I don't know. You hear me when I play games. John, unfortunately, has to listen to me.
This podcast has heard some of it, actually.
Yeah, this podcast has heard how loud I get. But yeah, like it's just I'll even just do something like do that stuff, and it helps me get rid of the nerves. And I just felt really awkward doing that at Evo, so I didn't do it.
I was gonna say, honestly, maybe even making those sounds may throw your opponent off, may give you an edge.
Yeah, honestly, maybe I should try it next time. Next Evo, look for me.
Have you guys ever had that opponent that you like, you're playing against them and then they just start grunting whenever they do a specific thing?
Yeah, it's funny. Sometimes there's also tells off of that.
Yeah.
One of my friends, he whenever he's about to do a throw, he slaps his stick and he raises it up, and it's very JoJo-esque, like an anime style. So like, sure, it's already happened, but you kind of could react because of how he's posing as he's about to do it.
That's amazing.
So
I got a chance to go to the Hawaii suite, and one of the best geefs in South Korea was there. And anytime he did the chop, he would go, ooh, 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 ooh. Because because it's a target combo, so it would be 3 chops. And he would just like, and you knew like you knew he was doing it on purpose because he was like making eye contact with me while he was doing it. I'm like, what the fuck? You're a geef? This is a geef player, yeah.
He's living into the wrestling memes.
Yep. Yeah, so like even that trip I ran into a noisemaker while playing. So you know, okay, so we talked through matches, and then Jess, you briefly talked about going to the different booths and stuff. You know, how would you say your like general convention experience at Evo, like ignoring the tournament for a sec? What was the actual event like in your eyes?
Yeah, like I actually really enjoyed it. Like I've been to other Evos with you before, not as a competitor, but just as a spectator. I definitely have mentioned this before. The energy is way different when you're there to compete. I had a lot more fun actually playing, even though I got eliminated immediately. I just felt like way more invested in the tournament as a whole. The standing on your feet all day problem is always a problem and will continue to be a problem, I imagine. they got the line thing resolved pretty quickly. I felt like they handled that really well. It was obviously pretty bad early on, but they pretty quickly the organizers figured out that they can't keep everybody in like a half-mile long line all day. So I thought they handled that well.
Yeah.
And then yeah, I mean, like I kind of always go around like Artist Alley and stuff like that. I don't often go to a lot of the like sponsor booths or things like that. Like that's not usually my cup of tea. I think this is the first time I really went to like any of the like I said, I stopped by like Junk Food Arcade, for example. I've never stopped by their booth before because I had no reason to, because I didn't really play fighting games. So that was kind of fun, you know?
Yeah, even the vendors had a different like outlook or different spin on them this time around, huh?
Yeah, and I actually was gonna try to stop at Arcade Shot just because I wanted to see what it was about, but their line apparently was 2 hours long. Like it wrapped around the booth. It was insane. So I did not do that.
Yeah, that's something that I think has happened like every time a new Street Fighter game comes out, but specifically 4 and 6, like there is just this giant boom of people that all want to suddenly buy an arcade stick. And in 2009, it was everybody wanted to buy an arcade stick all of a sudden. So suddenly everybody was out of parts. Like there's even a shop in Tucson, Arizona that made custom made sticks, and then they were backed up for like 6 months or something of custom made stick orders. And then now with 6 coming out, like it timed out perfectly with the rise of the mechanical keyboard hobbyist hobby. And suddenly everybody's just like, oh, we have all these different keycaps and micro switches and stuff, and we can put them in hitboxes, and suddenly everybody's a hitbox player now. And like every like big company's coming out with their own hitbox versions. Snackbox Micro, you know, they stormed onto the scene with that small form factor, and now Razer's got their own. Victrix has got their own. I think there's several other like big manufacturers that have just picked up hitboxes as like another product. And so and then at the same time, like I think at Evo it actually debuted a new JLF, a new arcade stick type, the successor to the JLF that was popularized in 2009. It's called the JLX. That one came out, and I think there was a big line for that one too, and a lot of hype around that. And just in general, like the gear subculture of the fighting game community has ballooned into this like economic force. Like this, it's just there's so many shops, and they're making a ton of money on all this stuff. So good for all the hobbyists that stuck with it throughout all the years.
I'm not sure if you saw like Hitbox made a new product. They debuted it like a week before Evo, but it was a button that will attach to one of your face buttons, and it will be on the lower or top part of your button. So it kind of adds another button in that area. So where if you're a Street Fighter player, if you had a light kick, it'll be a button right below that. So I thought that was a really cool thing. I kind of wish they debuted that earlier. I made a custom stick myself, or a custom hitbox, a leverless, and that was kind of what I was looking for. So I was like, I'll make a whole new stick from scratch. But if they had that announced, I might have held off for it.
Yeah,
but
I'm curious how the wiring on all that works, right? Because you still have to have a separate wire to go and go to your PCB ultimately to map to that extra button. But
yeah, I'm very curious too. It's
yeah, because they haven't announced like a release date or anything for it yet, right?
No, and I didn't even stop by the booth to see if they had a demo. I kind of wish I did.
Yeah, I think that was the other thing, is because the way the tournament was structured, I didn't spend a lot of time with the vendors. I do remember like there were like some big questions I wanted to ask y'all. Like I Maynard, I believe you played Project L, right? Like that was a big draw,
Nice.
I think, of that area. What was that like?
So I speaking about the big lines, I did get lucky. I got there on opening time, and there was a big gap in the line as they were walking to the door. So we kind of just fit ourselves in that gap. It was a 10-second gap of people walking. So I felt it was fair to just walk in. If not, I'm sorry, but hey, it's done. So I got to go to the Project L line. There was a line of about maybe a 15-minute wait before it got big. So it's still a small wait. They had 4 characters. They just announced Yasuo. They had Darius, Ari, and Echo. Unfortunately, they didn't have Jinx, which is the character I really wanted to play, but I was still excited to play those characters. And at the booth, the Riot booth, they had a stick option and a controller option. You can't change it out, or you can't have hybrid. So one of the guys that came with me to the Project L booth, Mo,
Yeah.
he's usually a controller player. I just kind of talked him into going to the stick line so he could play with me and his friends. And they had 4 sticks set up to do the 2v2.
Oh.
So that was a really cool experience to try. I wish they gave us more time. They gave us 2 matches overall. Each match goes to a first to 2. And I would compare it to I would compare it to Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite.
Okay.
A lot of handshake tags. The assist will come out. You could tag on the spot. But I think the big unique twist was the fuse system. Very similar to like a groove, I guess, in Capcom versus SNK.
Okay.
The fuses will allow you to either get like 2 assists out at a time, get 2 handshake tags, or get like what do they call it in Marvel, where you hit both of the assist buttons and everyone's super comes out?
Team supers?
Yeah, so they had like a team super fuse, like so that way.
Oh, are you talking about DHC, where you could do a super and then do another super?
No, like
do a tag
when
that way?
they both do the supers at the same time.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
I haven't seen anyone actually use it yet, but having 2 handshake tags was really cool, or having 2 assists, and it really changed the combo structure. They also had a very simple one where it's like when your health is just low enough, it will just give you bonus damage. So if you don't want to deal with unique factors, you could just take that very basic one and just get some extra damage. The real interesting thing was they snuck a Project L arcade cabinet to the arcade floor and did not tell anybody. It just became something that people found. So
that's cool. I didn't even know about that.
Yeah, it was really interesting. It was just amongst a bunch of other fighting games, so it just looked like another fighting game. But when people caught an eye on it, lines started gathering around it. I got to play that with Logi.
Oh, Logi. Very cool.
Yeah. We were watching one of your matches, and when you got out of the pool for that, there was a 2-hour break period. So we jumped in the line for that and got to play. And that was really cool, playing with someone that's also more Marvel vs. Capcom oriented, and being able to tag with them and make call outs. We are actually communicating, saying, hey, I'm going to tag you here, or next hit confirm you're getting, I'm going to do an assist and then tag there. So it's kind of really cool to have that in a Marvel vs. Capcom style fighting.
Well, it wasn't too chaotic or anything like that with having that many people playing at the same time, or?
I didn't feel like that bad. Then again, it was like a head-to-head machine, so me and him could just talk to each other. I don't feel like it was that possible on the booth, because on the booth it was 4 people tied up on one TV, so they could obviously hear, "Hey, I'm going to tag here," and they're all playing around it, or trying to, because we don't really know the game much, but they at least know.
I didn't even think about that. Yeah, there's like a weird like fog of war comms kind of deal that you have to think about in a fighting, like, because in the fighting game we don't really talk out loud. We just got done talking about people who grunt, but like not people who like are like saying I'm gonna burn this meter out loud, you know. But now you have to say that stuff to communicate with your partner. I wonder how that's going to change in real life tournaments.
Yeah, one thing I forgot to mention, because we're playing 2v2, in a tag-based fighting game, one person's not doing anything, but the person that's sitting in the back line, they get to call the assist, so they get to call what their character timing to get out and do which move. And then they also call the bursting. So the person sitting back still needs to watch and focus. They can't just sit back and relax. It's interesting. So it's like, I believe in Cross Tekken, I think that was one problem where the person in front will just tag you out immediately, or tag, and you may drop the combo if you're not paying attention. So that was the part you had to focus there. But now you're focusing on assist and bursting. So that feels pretty good.
Okay. Yeah, I mean that means like you basically are involved in your partner's combos.
Correct.
Like you're part of the B&B, and that's I don't know how I feel.
Yeah. Isn't this your soapbox about how fighting games you can only blame yourself for your losses? Now you can blame your
Yep.
teammate.
Yeah. My shitty teammate called the assist at the wrong time and made me drop my combo. That's oh jeez.
I guess that is, a new problem. But I mean, bringing a different game completely, League of Legends, bringing team fights into a fighting game, I think the translation makes sense.
Yeah,
I think that's the plus about it.
agreed. I think it's going to add a new dimension to fighting games that only Smash Brothers really has touched, and even that then they only ever touched it on like a surface level. I think they did doubles, but that never really caught on for like de facto competitive play. Where it seems like for Project L, they're trying to really push that as like the de facto standard. But we'll see. How far along do you think the game is, Maynard?
I'm hoping we get a closed beta next year. I think it's still far out. I don't think anything this year will happen.
Yeah,
And
I
at
agree.
best, maybe like 6 characters next year. I don't know, maybe 7. Who knows how much they actually have done? They did a trailer before Evo of or not a trailer, a play test with a bunch of content creators, and I believe it was Maximilian that said like, something of the lines that they can't even talk about some of the stuff that they saw. They had characters that were still T posing, so
Mm,
like
Amazing.
they have stuff that we just haven't seen. So maybe they are further along than we think, but who knows really?
yeah, it definitely looks like at least a year out to me, but who knows? Yeah. Okay. So anybody have any other like outstanding thoughts about the convention experience as a whole before we move into finals day for
I
Evo?
think we covered everything. Like I think it was a really cool. Just they took the whole hall, and I think they used the space efficiently. I thought it was a great experience, and I really can't wait till next year. I'm excited from 2017 to this year. That was the last time I went, and I think it was a big improvement.
Yeah, I had a blast. I will say, what was fun for me is I wore a sweatshirt because I I have always been freezing every time we go. And I think the sheer number of people there, I was sweating this year on day one. It was rough. So I made the wrong choice.
I expected it to be cold too. Yeah, like I bought a hand warmer, which it doubles as a USB battery, so I still got my money's worth. But I did not need a hand warmer. But on the flip side, you know what? We'll say that for another day. I guess it is worth noting that there were some issues with the PlayStation 5, but I feel like we're probably going to end up having Scott on at some point to talk that through. And I'm sure he'll do the topic justice. He was featured on Kotaku and stuff for reporting that on Twitter. We'll get into that at another time, I think. Okay, so at that point, we've all experienced the convention center. We were eliminated from the tournament, and then really all that was left to talk about is that final day of Evo, which is the finals day. And this was held at the Michelob Ultra Arena, I believe is what it's called now. It's the arena at Mandalay Bay, and it started with Marvel vs. Capcom 3, and then I think it was Marvel 3, Tekken, Strive, and then Street Fighter 6. Those 4 games, but it went from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. if I recall correctly. And so I was curious about what your guys' finals day experiences were like. Why don't we start with Maynard, since he has probably the most complete finals
Yeah.
day out of all of us.
Yeah, I got there. I got lucky. There was a friend actually already waiting ahead of line, and they actually pulled me. I didn't even see them. They grabbed me to the side and was like, "Hey, you're a part of our line now." So thank you so much. I don't know if I should even shout them out because I'm cutting the line, so I'm gonna hold that. But just know I do appreciate it. Um, when we did get in, Marvel already started. I missed the intro of Marvel. The first match already happened with Kane Blue River, and I can't remember the opponent's name at the moment, but he was one of the new bloods. And the moment we stepped through the curtains to see the stage, it was packed. This is the first time I've ever seen the floor just filled with people already. The previous Evo, not 2016, I think it was 2018 that I actually went. I got in at the start of the day, and I was able to just get a floor seat and just get the seat that I wanted pretty easily. Today, this year, I had to fight for it. There was the entire floor was almost taken. Um, the bleachers were almost filled. I don't know if they're called bleachers. The stands, pretty much. The only ones that I saw open were in the far back. I did luckily find a spot that I decided to keep a hold of, which is if you're looking at the screen, it'd be on the back right hand side on the floor. And I kind of just stuck there the entire day. The seats kind of sucked, to be frank about it. My butt hurt at the end of the day, but the viewing experience was still great. I think there was not a bad seat in the house. Every seat was really clear view, and being on the floor was just awesome. Every time a hype moment came up and people stood up, you can't help but just stand up too. You both want to see the event happen, and it's just so much energy in the room. I think the only part that also sucked, but I mean, this is general standard with stadium and Vegas. Food costs an arm and a leg. I spent like $20 on nachos and a drink.
Yep.
So
yeah,
big oof there. But honestly, from 10 a.m. all the way to 10 p.m., I still needed to get food. I still needed to get drinks. I was definitely wiped out by the end of the day.
And just as a big thank you is Jess and I, and well, actually, Jess, why don't we have you explain it? How was your finals day, or our finals day?
All right, let me be the one to thank Maynard for saving us some seats, because that was the first time we've actually sat on the floor. So that was an awesome experience. It's way better. I'm just gonna say that it was way better than sitting way up in the stands. For me, especially as someone who's on the tall side, I actually could like sit normally in the seat, which was great. I normally like have my knees jammed up against the seat in front of me. But yeah, no, I totally agree. Like the energy was, it was just like unreal in that arena. I've never seen it that packed. It was so loud, like in a good way. I mean, you kind of want it to be loud for an event like that. I still don't fully understand the Chipotle hype, but I got on board with it. I was like, all right, if that's what we're doing, that's what I'm doing. So that was interesting. But no, I had a good time. It was awesome. Those matches were also just unreal.
There was because it was so loud, we were all cheering. There like the Chipotle pop off that Jess is referring to, like it actually became like an endurance test after a while, because it's like, hey, you're gonna lose your voice. Do you really want to lose it cheering for a Chipotle ad?
Yeah.
I felt bad because L.I. Joe was also, hey, I hear you popping off for Chipotle. Let's pop off for this event here. L.I. Joe was trying to get everyone loud for whatever he was calling out. I don't remember at the time, but I don't know. We just gave 110 for Chipotle for some reason.
Yeah. I recall that actually for the Street Fighter 6 tournament in particular, like when they were running top 6, like I could feel the crowd getting tired because it was later in the day, and like, Jess and I showed up at like 5 p.m. or so. So we were there for a good amount of time, and like that's notwithstanding like Maynard, who was there for the entire day. Like I imagine everybody in the crowd was getting tired, and the MCs just kept trying to keep us hype, and then the Chipotle ad would air, and then everybody would burn all their energy on that shit. And like, like then they started giving out like free swag. Oh, which also pissed me off, because they were like, here, we're gonna hand out all these gift cards and these backpacks, and these are the same backpacks that you had if you qualified out of your second pool. You got a free backpack. So I'm like, I worked my ass off for that, and they just throw it out into the crowd.
I don't think you were.
Go ahead.
I don't think you were there for it, so I got to spit some negativity. So I apologize. But one of the things that they did for the crowd, they did a high card. High card, you just 5 people. They all pull a card from a deck. Whoever has the highest card wins. So all 5 people pulled a card. First place got a Victrix gold stick. Second place got a silver stick, and third place got a bronze stick. And I'm like, why are we getting these out?
Wait, what? Like the prizes that the competitors, the top 3 like Angry Bird got a gold stick. So somebody else got a gold stick for pulling a card out of a deck?
Some random Joe. I don't know if they
no.
had any what do they call it? The sketches or whatever on there, the laser stuff, but he got a
etching, yeah.
stick.
What? Why would they do that?
Kane Blue River traveled from Chile across the United States, the continental United States of America, to play in Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3, a game that hasn't seen numbers like that in a decade, and he got a bronze stick for that, all that work, and somebody else got that for pulling a card out of a deck.
Yeah, I was also salty as well.
I mean, good on them. Whoever got that stick, good on you. I hope you make a lot of money selling that secondhand market.
Yeah, honestly. I mean, for the backpacks, I was definitely trying to get one because I was like, I kept yelling like, "I've got an ego to crush. Give me a backpack." I did not get a backpack.
Oh man, if we had both gotten one of those backpacks, and you would have.
Oh
I know exactly how that would have went.
So
I got one.
At the very start of the day, I guess Marvel ended early. It was I believe it was a 3-0 finals.
Sure.
So they started giving away PS5s by doing rock paper scissors. They got 2 members, rock paper scissors, and me and Pretzel Logic, or Munchie, I don't know how you know him by. We were like, hey, next time they do this, let's run to the front, shirts off. We need to make as much noise as possible to try to get a chance. We're sad it never came back up, but there was a point where Tekken was ending, and he's like, hey, let me out, just in case they're already doing it. He's already ran to the front to like get ready to take his shirt off.
That's great. Man. That's a good tactic.
For a PS5, that's probably worth the price of admission.
Yeah.
Cool. So then I guess the actual like matches themselves, I think the three of us are most invested in Street Fighter. Were there any like standout moments in the top 6? Actually, and also in general, like what did you guys think of the top 6 format as opposed to the top 8 format? Jess, do you want to start?
Yeah, I mean, from my perspective, it actually, at first I thought it was kind of whack, honestly, because I was like, that's not really how, like, that's not how brackets are structured. How are you going to do that? You have to play, like, what is it, 2 matches? And I don't know. What, you have to play some matches basically off camera, to, like, fill in those other spots in the bracket. So I was a little weirded out by it, but then seeing how much like less time it took to run through it actually was kind of nice. Like, I enjoy watching the matches, don't get me wrong, but to your point, Maynard, like sitting in those seats after a while, you're like, okay, like I love this game. However, I also love my body and would like it to carry me through the rest of this weekend. So like I was okay with it in the end. Even if at first I was a little skeptical.
How about you, Maynard?
So, definitely invested in all those matches. There was a lot of crazy upsets, a lot of those last-minute clutches. Takedo and was it Kakeru?
Yeah.
Oh God.
Takedo versus Kakeru. God. Yeah.
A big heartbreaker for Kakeru, but that was the loudest pop I think I've ever heard in person. Everyone immediately jumped up from one like choke to another, all the way up to the level 1 super to just interrupt. Yep. Insane amount of energy.
Yeah. Yeah, I like didn't know whether to be excited or upset. It was a moment for sure.
Yeah.
There's those moments in tournaments where it's like there's like godlike plays, but then there's also like what just happened plays. Yeah. And that was definitely a like I don't even know who won per sec. You don't know what's going on, and then the super happens and you're like, oh shit, Ken won. Does that mean Takedo won? Oh my god, Takedo. Like there's that brief like moment where nobody knows what's going on and all you hear is ah.
Yeah. I do want to mention the top 6 format. It was great for time, but the thing that I was originally salty about was why did the top, like why can't we have the top 8? The top 8 people need respect too. I believe Snack Box or Junk Food Arcade also made I placed 7th in Marvel and all I got was this hitbox or yeah,
That's
they
cute.
made a custom stick for seventh placers. But I did learn later that top 8 did still get paid out. Top 8 also got all their medals. It just they didn't get featured on the big stage. So
Mm,
that's not too bad of a compromise, especially for time's sake. But still sucks overall for them, but good for the audience in time, but not for the audience in value of having all
Yeah,
those matches.
that's a good way
yeah.
of putting it. Yeah.
Instead, we got to cheer for Chipotle ads instead, right?
Yeah.
You know what?
Big
That's true.
Chipotle.
The Chipotle and the AT&T ad. That's
That
the one
made
that
no
me and
sense. I had no. I
yeah.
did. It took me like 3 times
Oh
to
my
see that
God.
ad before I understood what was going on.
I was like actually getting angry at him. I was like, can you just watch it? Just watch what's happening.
Me and my group were just repeatedly saying yes the entire time just because that's what the
Yes.
girl says
Yeah.
at the end. I don't know why she's saying it. It makes no sense. It's not even wrestling at this point.
Yeah, I did
But
hear you guys saying that.
but yeah, man. I definitely would go again. It was 100 some bucks. But I was really glad to just buy it early and got lucky because I guess some people couldn't even make it in. A lot of people bought tickets and got a lot of the tickets were getting scalped. So it's like that sucks for the people that can't make it in. There was definitely some empty seats because of that, but I guess lesson learned. Evo is getting bigger. We are getting crazier, and I think people will start buying it early now. And next year, you have to buy it as you buy your pass to get in.
Yeah, I will say that that's something that I think has hurt the community, and honestly, that's less so to do with this year, and just since the arena switch in general is that, like before the arena when we were all in ballrooms, it was just everybody in the venue could be anywhere. They could be playing casuals, they could be at a booth, they could do whatever, but they could just look over and catch finals. And they would do this other thing every year where it would be like they'd actually close down the rest of the convention, the area, and just fill the entire ballroom with seats. And so you could reasonably assume that everybody that was at the tournament and everybody that played in the tournament was in the stands, or it was not in the stands. There were no stands. They were in the audience, so watching the game. At the arena, like I felt like there were more people in my community that, or like my circle of friends that were not in the arena, but they were watching from a hotel or on a stream somewhere else. And so like the arena itself was packed, and I remember thinking in 2016 like how empty it was, how it was too big for us, and why that we were never going to fill it. And lo and behold, this year it was full, and I got to see what that looks like. And there's all those pretty media media events of like everyone showing their cell phones with the flashlights and stuff, like a concert. Like it was cool. But I do think that the community has been segmented pretty cleanly between spectators and players. But that said, all 3 of us were there spectating, and all 3 of us entered the tournament. So it's it's still, I definitely got, this was definitely the best arena experience that I've had. Okay, so let's fast forward a little bit. So the short version of it is then me and Jess fly back to Phoenix, and then you drive back, if I recall, Maynard. And I start feeling sick on the flight home, and so the next day, like I'm just scrolling through Twitter and being like, "Oh, everyone's testing positive for COVID." I tested negative. I still think I got it. Like I think I fucked up my at-home tests or something, because like I'm having difficulty breathing now, and it's like a week later, and I'm just like, that's not the normal like cold that I would usually get. So I'm sick as a dog for about a week, and I missed the follow-up event, which is Game On Expo, that took place at the Phoenix Convention Center here in Arizona this past weekend. Both you all were in attendance, and I am an inquiring mind. I'd like to know how your guys' experience was like there. So kind of similar format to what we talked about with Evo, but Jess, do you want to start with what your tournament experience was like at Game On Expo?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I think it was like 120 people entered, something like that. Which it was kind of wild, seeing that many people just packed around the little gaming zone booth basically. And there were a ton of people who just like didn't show up. That was kind of fun. I feel like we spent a lot of time just calling out names for people that weren't around anymore. And for me, it was maybe a little bit more like at my skill level, which was nice because I actually went 2-2 in this tournament. So I actually got a couple of wins. Yeah, it was pretty cool. The first one I got really, I think the guy just wasn't like actually a fighting game player. He was just mashing. He was just mashing through everything. I got a Ryu that was just doing overdrive DP multiple times in my face, and I was like, okay. That was an interesting experience. He got I think got a little frustrated and stood up in the middle of our match and just started talking to somebody else while the round was still going. And I was like, part of me was like, do I just take the round? And the other part of me was like, all right, I'll give him a second. And then I finally was like, hey man, like our match is still going. And he was like, oh, okay. And he sat back down. It was just bizarre. I was like, I think he just didn't enjoy losing. Maybe
What a
that's my
fucking
guess.
scrub.
It was really weird.
I can already tell you what that is, and I think we talked about this in private, but I'm going to air it in public. What it is when people don't like he didn't want to accept the loss, and he was just like, if I pretend that it's not real and I'm just not taking it seriously, then the loss won't hurt as bad, which is super disrespectful, and fuck that guy.
Yeah, it was definitely an experience. I mean, like it kind of makes me laugh because I was beating him pretty easily, and I don't think that's what he expected. So I don't know. Part of me was like, yeah, get shit on, nerd, but maybe that's too mean. I don't know. Yeah, anyway, that was definitely an interesting first match in that tournament. The rest did not go like that. From then on it was pretty it was a little bit more respectful. I lost to the next guy playing Jury. He just played really well. He actually went pretty far, if I recall, and did really well. And then won against I think that was a Ken. I think I played against Ken, and that guy actually was like at the end of the game was like, yeah, I don't know what to do against JP. And I was like, oh, sorry. Like I kind of was like, yeah, and I tried to give him a few like pointers, but I got the impression he like didn't really want to hear it, so I was just like, okay, cool, and good games. And then lost again to someone who actually was like, we chatted a little bit after that match, and I was like, yeah, this is like really my first fighting game, and he was like, you're actually doing really well, and I'm really like, he was really cool. He was really cool about it, so that was neat. I also ended up with like a couple of fans randomly. Like it was very endearing. It was very sweet. There were a couple of women that were at the tournament who like both approached me and they were like, it's so cool that you're playing this game. I've been watching your matches. I was like, wow, thanks. That's crazy. So that was pretty cool.
Moving women's rights further forward in the fighting game community.
Yeah.
Very cool. Yeah, I tried to prep Jess in advance because I was like, you know, Evo, you can tell when people like are salty at Evo, it's because they care a lot about the game and they traveled to Vegas clearly to perform well, and they're disappointed if they aren't. So there's like one like flavor of salt there. But at a con tournament where it's like passersby, that it's like, hey, you know, a dude bro that was playing Call of Duty that may know how to throw a fireball, like, yeah, I'll enter, and then, you know, they get humbled, and it's just, you know, you get to see like what the average person like plays like and whether or not they enjoy losing and how they handle losing, and you get a whole different flavor of salts, I think. But overall a good tournament experience then.
Yeah,
Jess?
totally. Like I had a blast. Even the ones I lost, like I still felt like I learned some things, which I think is super important. So yeah, no, I had a really good time.
If you had to pick between Evo and Game On for someone's first tournament experience, which would you recommend to them?
I mean, I think I had more fun overall at Game On because I think there were more players that I was more likely to play against people that were around my skill level. It's really a crapshoot, I think, with a bracket as big as it was at Evo. You don't know who you're going to play. You might end up playing someone at your skill level or someone way, way, way better than you. But to your point, people are also traveling pretty far for that tournament. So the chances of you playing someone that's actually put a good amount of time in are higher, I would think.
And what's funny is that Evo still is like, in my opinion, very casually diluted. Like if you want to go to like just all killer, no filler, like go to like a combo breaker or CEO or hell, even playing a local.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, Maynard, how was your tournament experience at Game On Expo?
It was pretty good. I enjoyed the overall setting. We had 121 players that entered. Um, I want to say they did ask me to seed a bit and mostly just grab the players that go to TGZ or Cyberzone often. Anyone
Sure.
that you know to put them in the top portion, so they're not fighting right away. Just because it is a con tournament and it's 120 some players.
Yeah.
I counted about 25 to 30 like actual players that I knew. And the crazy thing was that top 8 only had 2 of those players. So a
Yeah.
lot of people that I did not know, I try to get them in like, hey, do you know we have a community? Do you know we have events? So everyone that made top 32, top 16, I just like, hey, I want to make sure you're aware. Like, if you want to play, get competitive and get better, like you have the potential. I want you to come out and try out. So it's really cool to see new blood show up and perform really well amongst the group.
Did you
So
get anybody that you're like they were really good, and then you were like, "Hey, play competitively," and they were like, "Nah."
uh, one person was like, I don't have a Discord. That's the big thing. Or I don't have it on me. So we tried to get them info. I don't know if they even joined at this point, but that
Yeah,
was
I'm
probably
not
like the
sure.
worst. I think you helped me out with that one, Jess.
Yeah, I sent
It
over
was
the invite, but I'm not sure
yeah.
if they joined.
There
So
was a guy dressed up as Marissa.
yeah, it was awesome.
He
It
was
was a good
cosplaying as
cosplay.
Marissa, and he had a stuffed lion. He had a stuffed lion walking around with him, or not walking around, but he was carrying it with him. And he actually went further than I did. So I was like, "Yo, come into the community." So I have someone to talk Marissa with. Uh,
Oh,
so
I thought he played Ken or something.
That would have been great.
That was the thing in Street
Yeah.
Fighter 4 days. Since Benny's not here to wax nostalgic about Street Fighter 4, I will. It was all the jury players. There'd be like women dressed up like jury, and then you'd play them in bracket. Geef. It used to be like, fuck. Now I have to deal with the grappler.
got to churn the butter. But overall, it was really good. The big thing was when we first started the convention, it was a square booth. We took up 3 sides of a square. The back side was just a wall. So we played in this area. The problem is the front part of the square was a small corridor that took up space with a bunch of cosplayers, a cosplayer booth. Cosplayer booth had no room to take any more guests because we all took up the space to watch matches and to be a part of the crowd. Felt really bad for the cosplayers, and they got the okay to move. So the cosplayers picked up their tables, they moved around, and I
Wow.
think the con was like, "Hey, we still have too many people here. There's nowhere to walk. We need to move you guys." So we decided to move 2 to 3 TVs to another station. And the funny thing is, the station was across from the cosplayers again. So,
Yeah,
So they're chasing them
on the
down.
other side.
I felt really bad. My cousin was a part of that cosplayer group, and every once in a while we would have people spectating. They drew a line with tape, and it was like, "Hey, spectators, move forward on the tape. We need to have a walkway."
Yeah, they had to like
Wow.
box us in.
Yeah, but um, I think everything went really well. We're using the gaming zone setups, so it was the 1 or 240 hertz monitors with the PS5s.
Cool.
Um, that was pretty smooth. There was one small issue that I did want to bring up. And before the tournament, I guess there was some partners that also wanted to stream matches, or not stream, but play matches. And they had like this big scaffolding, not scaffolding, I don't know what to call it. It's like these
Yeah.
big bars that went up, and they had TVs high up in the air so people could watch from afar. So they wanted
Sure.
people to play matches there, but they were on 60-inch TVs that had close to 25 to 30 frames of lag. It was close to unplayable.
Milliseconds, right? Milliseconds
Yeah.
of lag? Okay.
No, frame, like it was pretty bad.
Oh shit. Okay.
Yeah. I would do my combo, and I would test my drive rush, and I would be like I don't know, a few frames off to where I would almost whiff it. I could not get the timing down on those TVs. So I told them, hey, don't send people there. It's going to be a bad experience, but they had to. Being that it was a con, they kind of had no choice. So they kind of just sent people that they weren't at TGZ regularly. So
they were
I'm sorry, con
least
goers.
likely to complain, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, con goers. You kind of had to have a jinx set up. Funny thing was, Tony Ghidorah, he actually lost his first match to a random that we didn't know. He's now in the Spiral Series community, and I hope to play with this guy some more because he also eliminated me. But Ghidorah lost early, and TGZ doesn't know who Ghidorah is yet. So they did send him to that station. Luckily, he did fight kind of this person that wasn't really competitive, and Ghidorah plays Blanca. And he noticed how laggy the TV was immediately. So he just Blanca balled all day. And they can't react to it. They can't jump it. So
because his lag's that bad, huh? Yeah, that's true.
So
that's
sorry, random con goer, but yeah, you got Blanca on really bad TVs. So I think that was probably the only biggest complaint. Other than that, the other complaint would just be audio. We still are lacking audio equipment. I hope to figure that out soon. I want to help them out. So I'm currently in talks with them to try to figure out what's the best option. And hopefully we could improve our experience overall, because Street Fighter 6 is such an audio heavy game comparably to the rest of the series.
Yeah.
So
I agree. There's a lot of like vocal cues that we use to keep track of things. Or
Yeah.
go ahead, Jess.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Well, I was also going to mention, like, I think this is a great example of, we actually saw someone take like full advantage of those accessibility options that they added to Street Fighter 6 at Evo. And that was awesome. And you really can't have a game that has that much support for that and then not support it in your setups. Like, there's definitely a conflict there. And like, John knows this. In my career, I'm like a huge accessibility advocate. So realizing like that disparity, seeing that, it's a little disappointing. I understand it's expensive to support that stuff, but I hope we can find a way to do that.
I agree. I think that in particular, the headphone conversation, like it's a tough one, because it's like on the one end, you're like, I need this to play efficiently, or in an accessibility case, I need this to be able to play at all. But on the other hand, I'm also like, I need to be able to play without sound, because I know I'm not always going to get that option. And it's a kind of, excuse me, it's kind of like a reality versus ideal thing. And I'm like, I've been trying to practice and just ignore audio in some cases, and play without any audio whatsoever, so it doesn't get to me. Because a lot of times the audio isn't actually a factor. It's more of like, hey, something's not right, so now I'm off mentally. I think that has a lot to do with it too. So like if the setup isn't like pristine, or like not completely spec'd out to the way you want it to be, like it's really easy to get into your own head on that kind of stuff. By no means am I saying that that's the case for the accessibility options, but just in general, like I found that building up resilience. So like, for example, like the Tucson tournament that occurred a couple weeks ago and will likely occur again in a couple weeks here. They run it on PS4, PC, PS5. They switch between all three of those, which is a horrible thing for competitive integrity as far as making sure everyone's playing on the same platform. But it's also really good for teaching you how to play on PS5 when you're only a PC guy, or being able to adapt and cope with things, kind of like how Tony did with his you know, 20 frame startup Blanca ball, unreactable Blanca ball.
Yeah.
And oh, sorry, I was gonna just bring up another complaint item that I just thought about, and it's no one's fault. I think one big thing is that we are moving to the 120 frame era, and with the 120 frames, we had another streaming hiccup where we couldn't stream the footage. Felt really bad
Yeah.
for everyone at home, but it also the crowd too, because we couldn't stream it to the big screen. As the top 8 happened, like me and Jess hanged out on seats below the stage, watching on their small TVs to
Yeah.
try to watch the matches. And I'm just constantly hopping in and out of stage because I tried my best to record something because I wanted some sort of footage for the archives.
Yeah, I don't think we've actually had like a reasonable stream for a Street Fighter 6 tournament yet. I think we like Benny's tournament had, you know, somebody manning a stream, and I think the Contender Esports ones also had streams, but like they didn't have like full commentators or anything like that, or anything highly promoted. So it would be nice for our local scene to advance into the streaming era once again. Okay, cool. Any last thoughts on Game On Expo or the convention as a whole? Any thoughts there? Did you guys even get a chance to explore the rest of the convention?
I did a little bit. One of this is like my nerdy era. I found a dice maker for those people out there who play D&D. I followed them on Instagram, so I saw that they were here and I lost my mind. Got some cool stuff. It was really awesome.
That's cool.
Yeah, it was great.
How about you, Maynard? Did you check out any of the other convention, or was it all day tournament for you?
I actually went the second day, or third day, I guess, on Sunday. I bought a full event pass because that's usually what I do at Game On. I just try to check out other things. I'm so focused in Street Fighter that really I couldn't really buy anything else. Like I didn't see anything that I liked or anything that really caught my eye. So I'm sorry, vendors. I guess I'm not the audience at the moment, but I did see like they did have some cool pieces. I wish I was into more anime and more games, so I could have support everyone, but nothing that really caught me. The cool thing was that they did have some music games and some new pinball machines that I haven't seen before, so I got to experience those, and that's what I did enjoy about the event. To try out some of the new games that I don't usually get to play.
Okay, very cool. Well, for our last topic of the day today, I wanted to kind of just touch briefly on, y'all have been playing competitively now, and each of you, I think, have had like notable milestones as far as climbing the ranked ladder in Street Fighter 6 goes. So I was curious about kind of like what your experience climbing the ladder has been in recent times, and just kind of like it's almost like a training journal of, if anything. We can go back on this, go back and look at this and think about where we were when Jess hit platinum, But Jess, do you want to start? Like, what's your ranked ladder experience been like recently?
Yeah, sure. So I think I've been playing Modern JP. Just I don't think I actually like said that out loud explicitly yet. Yeah, I think at first I was placed into rookie because I really had no idea what I was doing. But I relatively quickly got to silver, like just kind of using the auto combos and just like figuring out how to react to people and react to things, how to use like drive parry and drive impact a little bit. And then it was like a little bit of a struggle getting like into gold, where I think I had to pick up a few new things, started using like the motion controls to do a lot of the inputs for JP, like actually getting to, instead of just relying on the like one button options you have for his specials, actually putting those in and getting to choose them. That really changed the way I played up quite a bit. So once I got to gold, I was on like I think like a 16 game win streak at one point. Like I really like I figured some stuff out and I kind of figured out how to punish some things and just kind of like rocketed through gold. And then I'm now like at Platinum 1. I definitely am noticing like there's a lot more technical things that I have kind of missed that I need to go back and learn a bit. I'm really terrible with using like drive rush cancel, for example, because I haven't had to rely on that at all. And now everybody is like doing insane combos, and I'm like, well, I have no, and I don't know how to get in very well, for example. Just some stuff like that that I'm noticing at this point that I have to work on. And then I'm also making maybe the insane decision to try to switch to leverless. So I'll probably dip a bit while I figure that out. But one of the nice things about that I've noticed is that it makes a lot of those inputs way cleaner for me. So I don't miss as many when I'm practicing, which is really nice. I definitely was dropping a lot of like quarter circles and the like down motion. I have a really hard time with. Like I'm very sloppy with it. So
That is worth noting, though, actually, is that like with modern controls, you do still have to do the quarter circle motions, right?
yeah, if you want to like take full advantage of the different like light, medium, heavy, like ghost or glyph, for example. Sorry, I'm terrible with the names of the abilities, so I don't know what they're actually called. That's what I call them. So yeah, like I think pretty quickly when I realized that like for example the glyph it's placed at different spots on the screen or the ghost can hit like low overhead or high, I was like, oh, I definitely want to do that because that seems way more useful. And it has been like I hit people with that overhead all the time. Like I condition people to like block low and then hit them with the overhead, for example. Like that helps me quite a bit.
Okay. Very cool. So you anticipate a dip by switching to leverless, but overall it seems like you've got a laundry list of things to work on.
Yeah, like I know that there's a lot of stuff that like I'm also realizing that I have to go back to and like actually fill in some of the more fundamental stuff, like even just using some of the more basic target combos to start things off. Like I relied a lot on the auto combos at the beginning, and I'm finding now that I need some of those other normals to handle different situations, I guess.
Yeah, that's pretty straight. Like that's like the fighting game journey is like you go into ranked and then you like you solve for a bunch of problems, come up with some combos, and then you go into ranked and then you're like, oh, I need a different combo for a different thing. That's basically the ever never ending journey. I still am like there's still combos that I'm like, oh, I need to do this more. Like air legs. I need to use air legs more. Oh, what's my combo after air legs? I don't know. I need to figure that out.
Yeah.
Cool. Maynard, you also have had a recent milestone in the ranked queue. And would you like to shed some light on that?
Yeah, I recently hit master. It's definitely
Hey, congrats.
Thank you. It's been a long time coming. Busy with doing the boot camp, and I would rather do the lobbies because I think that was a better experience for me. But I was like, you know what? After Evo, I'm driven. I want to finally hit this rank. Not to mention they added these new MMR system and legend, like our famous episode from 2 weeks ago.
Legend.
Talking about hitting legend.
Yep.
So hey, I hit the grind and I started doing it. And one big thing that I heard about was I started from Diamond 3 after Evo, and I went all the way into Master. And the big thing I heard was at the end of Diamond 4 and in the area of Diamond 5, it's going to be incredibly easy. You're going to fight Master players that have a lot of LP that you could just beat, and you'll just skyrocket and just go straight into Master. That's kind of what I've always been hearing just from everybody that has made it.
Yeah.
Since this MMR change, I don't think it happened. Or I mean, I think there was a big change that happened. I only fought one master player that beat me, and I did not play anyone else.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
The last stretch of 300 LP was all Diamond 5 people that were under me. So I could only get the maximum of 50 LP. So it actually was a longer, harder grind in Diamond 5 because I never got any bonus LP from fighting someone that was higher than me.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yes. I don't know if it was an intentional or if I had bad luck, but that was the experience that I had. There was a point where I was like, hey, if I run into a master, I just got to beat him twice and I will hit master. Never happened. I was just kind of waiting for it, and it never did, and I finally hit it.
Goddamn. Okay, I didn't know that. So I guess maybe they just pair you up with masters less and less often. Um, I think that like the MR is used in matchmaking now. And I bet since you didn't have an MR, they weren't pairing you up with people with high MRs, even though you might be able to beat them. That's interesting.
That could be it. The one master I did fight had around 60,000 LP, which what was master again? Like 30 or 25? So
I think it's 25. Yeah.
yeah. So they had definitely over double mine. So that would have skyrocketed me if I was good enough to beat him. But no clue what their MMR was. I couldn't even see it at that point. So it's an interesting change.
Do you think that so is Master the promised land, Maynard? Do people suddenly play respectful and honest Street Fighter at Master rank?
Honest, that's not the word that you'd use. It's a lot of random, a lot of chaos, and hey, that is a style you have to learn to play. You have to learn to fight the chaos. No, I don't think it's the promised land. Not yet. Maybe Legend. Maybe Legend's the promised land.
I'm sure it will be. I think if anything, like I was like, maybe one way to make people play a little bit more less crazy, I think, is to have something on the line. Like when we play at these tournaments that we were talking about earlier, like we were talking about nerves, and it influences your decision making. But I found that with the MR system, when you force somebody to have something on the line, they'll just cut and run more often, and they'll one and done you. I've noticed.
I luckily haven't ran into that yet.
Okay. You haven't had any one and dones?
I get one and dones, but not the streaks of one and dones.
Okay.
Like it'll just be like one person, and it's like they probably would have one and done me on the old system too.
And Jess, you get a lot of one and dones, right? Because you play JP as well.
I think people don't have fun and then don't want to play me again. It's always a bummer though, because often they'll do some things that I don't know how to deal with, and I'm like, oh man, I really want you to play me again because I need to figure that out, and I don't get the opportunity to. So.
Oh no.
Do
you ever wonder if people are one and doneing you because they don't want to play against a modern player? Do you think it goes that deep?
I mean, maybe. I'm sure there are some people like that out there.
The hatred for modern is very strong.
I still use Battle Hub to do warm-ups, and I still see people hating on modern.
Yeah, like in the chat.
Crazy. Yeah. My God. Oh, I forgot to mention that about that guy I saw at Evo. That was my favorite dude at Evo. He had a sign that it was, I forget the exact proverb or whatever, but it was like, and you shall know him by his mark, like the mark of the beast, and it had the modern M on it. I desperately wanted to get a photo with him, and he was gone by the time I got back there, and I was like, no.
Oh man,
great.
Yeah, we are pro modern on this podcast. I think like Haitani and the Japanese in general, I think I've shown that modern is a viable option. Being able to do one button supers is pretty legit. I think I actually think one of our locals lost to he beat Wolfgang, which is a huge accomplishment in my opinion. But he lost to a modern Chun as well, and it's no. I watched some of the footage of that, and I felt for my friend because I'm just like, oh, she has meter. You can't do anything now. You can't do a damn thing because she'll just super your ass because she has a one button super. So there's a very distinct possibility that becomes the meta of the game, and we all switch to modern eventually. It's like just seeing some of the stuff that you can do with the modern scheme, Jess. Like it's pretty cool. Like there's definitely some like drawbacks and annoyances. Like, hey, if I want to use that godlike JP stand fierce, now I have to hold a button and press it, which that's confusing and unintuitive for a dinosaur like me. But for a modern era gamer, maybe that's not a big deal when you can snipe them from half screen with a super.
I think it definitely benefits pad players because where the default layout, it has it on the trigger, like you hold down the trigger to do it. I think that's way easier than kind of my like fucked up control scheme I came up with to have an easy way to hold a button down,
Sure.
like on a stick. So yeah, there's definitely pros and cons.
Well, cool. I guess the last big question that I have for both of y'all is, we talked about Evo today, we talked about Game On and kind of the general ladder experience. What's next? Are y'all going to keep playing Street Fighter 6? And if so, like what sites do you have set, or what goals or anything really? Maynard, do you want to start?
Sure, sure. 2 weeks from now is Capcom Pro Tour online event. I definitely want to participate in that. I was first sad because it was conflicting with a local, but the local didn't move and changed. So, I mean, I guess I don't know if this is too early, but there's a local in Tucson that was happening that's now moved to September 2nd. It's called Down to the Wire. Uh, Funny name because we were all shouting Down to the Wire when it really wasn't. It was like 1-0. And
Oh, is that where that came from? Okay.
yeah, I think it was Sean dude who said, "Oh, it's down to the wire." I was like, that's not down to the wire yet. He was using it as a match point expression rather than it being close. But yeah, so I definitely will be competing still. I want to keep going to locals. I want to keep leveling up. My big mindset is next year, try to go to the three majors, which is CEO, Combo Breaker, and Evo. And because I have a baseline now from being at this year's Evo, which I guess I didn't mention, my overall rank showed up as 1,005. I
Oh,
just say 1,000 to make it easy. So hey, next year let's go 500 and lower. That's going to be the main goal. So
nice.
maybe I could hopefully look back at this podcast and say, hey, I did it. So fingers crossed.
Yeah.
Yeah, like next year, this time of year, Maynard's a pro sponsored player. He just made $1 million in Saudi Arabia or something.
Hell yeah.
It's fresh off his invitational after stomping Big Bird with his own tech. Oh, very cool. Jess, how about you? What's next on the docket in your Street Fighter journey, your fighting game journey?
Yeah, I think obviously trying to figure out leverless is my next big hurdle. That's gonna affect how I do pretty much everything. Um, I was really looking forward to the Tucson local. I kept asking John about it. I'm pretty sure he was like, "Do you even want to go to that?" And I was like, "Hell yeah, I do." So I'm gonna try to do that, I think. And then John, you were even telling me to do the online one.
Oh, the CPT West thing?
Yeah, and I was like, I guess I'll at least get to play people. Like I'm not going to do well, but it could be good to just play people. So who knows? Maybe I'll give it a shot just to get more exposure to playing different people.
I hear you. You could also, well, actually, Maynard, I want to put you on the spot on our show here. Our boot camp's coming back.
You know, let me figure that out still. Put me on the spot here. I don't have it in my mind just yet. I wanted to do something to freshen it up because, to be blunt about it, it did slowly go to a lower end of the scale. So I want to be able to bring some spark to it and bring some fire. Maybe now that we had people from Game On and people that didn't know that we exist, maybe that would be a good opportunity. So let
Sorry,
me find out a little bit more about
that
that.
was the opposite of blunt. Are you saying that no one
Or
showed
not
up?
blunt, not blunt, but just being transparent was what I meant to say. It
So
did go to the
nobody
lower
showed
end
up.
where the last week or last 2 weeks, instead of getting 15 to 20, we were getting more about 7 to 10.
Got it.
So I do want to be able to, get more pools because it's kind of hard with only having from one station to another in promotion matches. And I think that kind of defeats the system.
Get it.
So
So that's a call out to our community, myself included. I wasn't able to attend a lot of those, but I think that we all benefit from that boot camp. It's a lower committal thing than an actual like physical local. We can play from the comfort of our own homes, and it's a good way to meet new people and meet players of similar skill level. So I hope that if it comes back, that we all treat it with as a solid opportunity to get better in our local scene. Cool. Any shout outs on the way out here, Maynard or Jess?
I mean, I do want to shout out everyone in my group that came with us to Evo. Kidney, my roommate, Tall Cat, and Dragon Ninja Ryu. Thanks for coming with me and hanging out, keeping me awake on the drive. Definitely shouting out and supporting Dragon Ninja, especially. He did help me with some of the coaching and call outs in some of my matches. So also you, John, you gave me a big speech at the very beginning, and I want to say that did help my nerves a bunch. Thank you for always being here and supporting, having this great podcast to listen to, and keeping my mindset straight for fighting games.
Cheers.
But yeah.
Hell yeah. I don't know. I figure I can shout out like our friend Eric. I don't think he's actually a part of the Spiral Series Discord, but he's been training with me quite a bit. And he's one of the people I think originally got John into fighting games. Is that
yeah,
right?
he was my Gary Oak. He was the original like rival that got me to like I like my goal wasn't to get good at fighting games. My goal was to beat Eric. And I'm very happy that goal continues to this day.
I never knew that.
I now carry the beat Eric torch. No, but also, again, I do want to shout out like everyone. Honestly, there's too many people to name because almost every single person from the Arizona scene came up to me and asked me about my experience at Evo and like congratulated me and encouraged me, and I really appreciated that. It was really great. So thanks everyone.
Cheers. Well, that's a good note to leave our podcast on here. You can find us on Twitch at twitch.tv/Spiral Series, YouTube at youtube.com/Spiral Series, and on Apple Podcasts on Spotify under Absolute Guard. Thanks everybody for watching and listening, and we'll see you next week. See ya.
Take care.